Welp, we got a trailer, everyone, and it is a lot. This is the episode that Alex Roshan, Kane's voice actor, said was his favorite to record. So we can only assume that Kane is going to play a much larger role than he usually does in these episodes. And if you watch the trailer, then you can find a ton of clues that might actually work to confirm or at least heavily support a few theories we've had on the channel, along with giving us a couple new ones. So first off, let's try to condense these clips in the trailer into some sort of chronological order, so we can better understand what actually might be happening in the episode. But before we can even get into that, we have to look at the thumbnail too, because it itself is a direct reference to a movie called The Truman Show, where a man named Truman Burbank is raised from childhood inside a fake world secretly filled with actors and cameras recording everything and broadcasting it to the world 24/7. Definitely watch it if you haven't already. The movie actually draws some parallels to the circus, with them both being artificial worlds filled with people who technically aren't real. But anyway, we begin with an old-timey sort of introduction, which to me looks like even more proof that Kane is going to be taking more of a primary role. And then the scenes that I believe will happen first in the episode are these right here, where we see the cast all together except for Jax, seemingly discussing what happened in the last episode, with Kane sitting in his office talking to Bubble about how he feels. This is where I believe the line comes in about him asking if they really want to leave him. Bubble's response, of course, is unknown, but we can only assume that it makes Kane more stressed as the area around him starts to glitch in the trailer. So I believe these shots are going to happen close together. And interestingly enough, we can actually use Kane's glitch to connect another scene, that being this one, which shows the circus members reacting to the environment around them glitching. This could potentially hint towards an intro to the episode, where everyone is on the couches still trying to process the events of the previous adventure. Perhaps even showing a conversation between them all, since they are positioned right next to each other. And then it cuts to Kane in his office, where the subsequent conversation he has with Bubble causes the circus to glitch as he fears the circus members wanting to leave him, the effects of which are seen all the way back down in the lobby where the characters are. Either that or this part is from a scene a tiny bit later where the gang finally confronts Kane, as we know that likely happens shortly after these two scenes. And while we do have no idea what Bubble and Kane are going to say to each other, I bet the end result will leave Kane more mentally unstable than ever before, being 1000% dedicated to solving everyone's problems and giving them what he thinks they want. Which I think leads us to the shot where Kane is seemingly in the cellar. What's he doing in the cellar, you ask? Well, if you watched episode 7 and thought that Kane couldn't possibly make the members of the circus feel any worse, then prepare yourself, because there's overwhelming evidence in this trailer that leads me to believe that Kane is going to bring back the abstracted members of the circus as NPCs to try to revive that same joy in the main characters before it all went downhill. Which would also make that Truman Show reference in the thumbnail make even more sense, since Truman was also trapped with people who acted like his friends, but were not real. It might also inadvertently confirm a theory we had where abstracted members are absorbed into the code, allowing Kane to recycle them as much as he wants. And we can pretty much say that Kane is almost definitely going to do this, due to a few different shots. First, we have the hot chocolate that appears in the picture Jax has of himself, Ribbit, and Kaufmo, and in that same shot, we see the outline of what looks like Ribbit's shadow. And if that wasn't enough, we literally see a part of Queenie on the left side of this shot, with these shots here acting as some sort of build-up to Kane bringing them back. We can even see the portal that I bet you $1 million the abstracted characters are gonna come out of, and the shocked expressions of Jax and Kinger, with Pomni looking rather surprised as well, possibly signifying that she's looking at either Ribbit, Kaufmo, or Queenie. My guess is either Queenie or Ribbit. Something else that's interesting is that Gangle might actually have someone come back too, judging by these two shots where Zubul is looking at Gangle, who has a depressed expression. So Kane may be doing a little bit more than just bringing a handful of them back. He may be going full on and reviving the entire original cast as NPCs, which would be a lot of people. But back to the trailer, we can very confidently conclude that this episode is going to heavily focus on the characters' pasts. It's not clear whether it'll include direct flashbacks, or if Kane is going to physically make them relive their past to try to find the point they were most happy. But if I were to take a guess, I would probably say it's a bit of both. The reason I say this is because although I am pretty confident Kane is going to bring back abstracted players as NPCs, I'm not really sure if this shot with Kinger and Kane is from the past, considering this part earlier in the trailer where we see Kane and Kinger teleporting away by themselves. This could either be just Kane taking Kinger to an empty part of the circus to talk, or it could be the beginning of the circus where Kane is looking to Kinger for assistance on what to build, back when it was potentially just them. The reason I kind of don't think this shot is from the past though, is because I actually subscribe to the belief that Kinger and Queenie came into the circus together, which is why their avatars are so similar, since the game processed both of their entries at the same time, so it would obviously turn the married couple into a king and queen. But the shots that I still can't really connect to anything are these two, where we see a red dot and a blue dot on some sort of screen, followed by Kane slumped over with some electricity. Now, this is really speculatory, like the rest of the video, but this shot could work to confirm a long-standing theory we've had on the channel, that Kane actually wasn't the first AI that was in the circus, potentially being a part of an advanced system called a GAN, which, for those of you who don't know, is made up of two different AIs working in tandem. One of them creates things, and the other critiques them to make sure they're up to some sort of code determined by the developer. So, in the case of Kane, his discriminator would potentially help him create adventures. But after Kane made some sort of mistake and his discriminator wasn't able to fix it, he was disabled, explaining Kane's conversation with Jax, where he said he was quote-unquote cut off. I actually speculate that he was cut off from his partner, the only other being who could help Kane make good enough adventures. And now that they're gone, Kane is completely alone, forced to keep up the circus on his own. He was even so alone that he created Bubble, which I bet is just an extension of Kane's AI. This would explain why he degrades right alongside Kane. The last couple shots I want to mention are these ones right here, with one of them being a red car crashing into the ground. This one is a bit of a stretch, but it could definitely be Jax's arrival into the circus. I mean, for all we know, the characters may have all entered in a unique way, but since we've only seen Pomni spawn in, we really have no definitive answer for that. It could just totally be Kane spawning that in for Jax. Nevertheless, I do think we are at least going to get some sort of information on the members' first days. We just don't know if it'll be them talking about it or if it'll be actual flashbacks. But either way, we do know for a fact the topic will be explored. And last but not least, we have the shots of the CNA building. I'll talk about it more in its own video, but what I will say about it now is that I actually think these are security photos taken by someone on the list that Kane wrote in episode 7. How Kane's able to obtain them, however, is a theory for another day. But anyway, those are my immediate thoughts upon watching the trailer. I love every single one of you with all my heart. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe for more theories.